This video is brought to you by anti-gravity lithium-ion batteries used by Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha and Monster Energy Kawasaki and many more teams. And you can use the same battery as Eli Tomac, Jason Anderson, and others. Anti-gravity batteries offer more power and capacity than the competitors because they give you a larger lithium battery pack. But additionally, they offer features like the world's first batteries with built-in jump starting that will never leave you stranded. So check them out at antigravitybatteries.com.
How's it going, everybody? Welcome to RacerXOnline.com. I am Kris Keefer. We're at, guess what? Holy crap, Glen Helen. Shocker, I know. But you know what? We finally got this bike. It's been a while. 2023 CRF450RWE. Stands for Works Edition. They're just starting to trickle into the dealerships right now. So what's new, or I should say, what is different from the standard 2023 CRF450R is you have a hand-ported cylinder head, and yes, it is hand-ported. None of this just cleaned up business. It is a hand-ported cylinder head. You have premium DID Dirt Star LTX rims, Yoshimura full exhaust system that's titanium, looks beautiful. Of course, we have the titanium oxide-coated lower fork tubes, Hinson clutch basket and cover. So it actually does have a Hinson clutch basket. It's just not a cover like Kawasaki just has the cover and nothing inside. This actually has the outer basket. RK gold chain, special RWE ECU settings that are mated to the ported cylinder head. Of course, throttle, jockey, gripper, seat, revalve suspension on the RWE, HRC decal package to make you look and feel like a factory racer, and a twin air filter. So these are the differences that you're getting with the WE versus the R. We're gonna try these things out, and from what I've gathered in the past, this bike does drastically feel different compared to the CRF450R. So with that being said, I've always said, hey, the CRF450R is a little bit rigid, it's stiff-natured, but with a little bit of change in the engine can really help this chassis. The WE comes into play right here. So we're gonna ride this thing, break it all down to you. I have a Honda guy here, he's die-hard. He's gonna even have a Honda winged hat when he talks to you guys. So this is how gnarly this guy is. David Martinez, we're gonna be back and talk to you about it. What he thinks, he actually owns one of these bikes and compare it to his old bike, so stay tuned. All right, we're wrapped up here at Glen Helen, late afternoon session here, but we brought the two-wheel press coordinator, the big cheese right here.
That's
right. Big cheese, Ryan Dudek. Ryan's been my buddy for many, many years. He's raced many years, held a national number 92.
That's right, yeah.
And I can't claim that. I've never had one, and it pisses me off. But he is the two-wheel press coordinator for Honda, so I brought him in here real quick just to give you guys some differences from the 2022 CRF450RWE to the 23. So tell us, or tell them, Ryan, what they can get from a 22 to 23.
Okay, so basically as we had the Works Edition since 2019, and this one has the same upgrades as it had last year with the forks, the shock, the exhaust, the grips, the chain, the head, the cam work, but now this one received all the changes that our standard 23 got. So changed the frame rigidity, changed the engine hangers, changed the throttle body. And so Yosh came up with a new exhaust this year, kind of
longer header, it looks like.
Longer header,
yep.
And the
mid pipe. Oh, the resonance chamber.
Little resonance.
The resonance chamber. Got it. Yeah.
A little resonance chamber. Anyways, yeah.
So the porting inside here is different from the 22 because it's a new head.
Yeah.
Okay.
So new head cam, but it still comes with the little polished ports to make it a little cleaner.
So if someone busts this thing open, because we know who's going to bust this thing open and tell us if it's ported or not, it's actually hand ported.
Hand polished.
Hand polished.
Hand polished.
Okay.
Would you? But
so, and also for you guys as well, the settings have been revised from the 22 WE. Of course, we know that they're different from the standard edition, but they have evolved since 22.
Yeah, that's correct. And that was something we got to do for 22 is we got to, WE got its own settings. So the previous years, they kind of had the upgraded suspension, but not its own setting. So for 23, we carried that along where the WE got its own settings separate from the the R or the R 50th anniversary edition. So
okay, I brought a 22 CRF450RWE owner right here, David Martinez. All right, so Dave, we rode it all day today. We actually brought your bike that has other work on it. We'll talk about that here in a minute. But just riding your bike, and I did as well, I've been on the R a little bit. I don't know, the past 3 weeks or so, I've kind of ridden that a little bit. My buddy Spencer behind the camera has that bike right now. But what is the big difference between your bike and this bike? Obviously, it's a year later. Do you feel anything different?
Rigidity. The rigidity on this bike compared to my bike is gone. The nervous feeling coming into corners is gone. The suspension, the front forks were horrible on my bike as far as coming into corners and just getting beat to death. This bike, all that seems to be gone. The front end actually, suspension, both front and rear, actually is really, really good compared to my stock stuff.
All right, yeah, so the chassis for me, obviously that has evolved from the 22 standard edition onto this WE. So if you have an older WE, this new chassis, I wouldn't say gone. I still feel more rigidity compared to other bikes, but it is a lot better. Glen Helen today is softer. It's been raining here in Southern California, so again, all that sand from these hills behind me run down onto the track and create a softer track. So the Honda likes those conditions. So for me, less rigidity is a plus. And also, what I noticed is these Showa settings are much more friendlier, and to me, are a little bit beefier. And what beefier means to me is it just has more holdup. So the action is still quick moving in the fork, but for me, I still have a little bit more holdup. It doesn't feel as empty on the front fork as it did last year. So the in-stroke just holds up a little bit more, meaning more low-speed dampening for me, which I like. I'm 172 pounds. You're
180.
180, which I feel like it's probably more. He's probably lying about that.
I'm not.
So along with the improved chassis feel, what I think you WE owners are going to get versus the R guys, for me, the smoother engine character with this bike, it's just linear and long, and it doesn't bind up the chassis as much as the R. This WE, and it could be the hand-polished cylinder, it could be this Yoshimura muffler with the new head pipe, but it's just really linear and easy to ride. There's not a huge hit, so it really calms down the chassis. So Dave, you have one from last year. Do you notice anything different?
Yeah, I have. This has less engine braking than my bike did stock, which when engine braking going to a corner on the Honda, it loads a chassis and the bike just gets upset. Where this bike, it's just more easier going the corner because there's less engine braking. There's still some there, but not as much as mine. And it doesn't upset the chassis as much, so it's easier to corner.
Yeah, so the WE for me from the R has a longer second gear pulling power. Up these hills today, I can come out of the bull turn and the turn starts right before the base of the hill, and I can keep second gear all the way up the hill versus having to shift like I had to on the R model. So the hand polished cylinder as well as this Yosh muffler really does make a difference in engine character. If it was me, I would like to maybe go up a tooth on the rear so I can get in third gear more. If you guys like to lug and be a little bit lazy, I like to ride third gear. I think it would help that. For me, when I do shift into third gear, it does pull it really nice, but I need to use second gear with this gearing. So going up a tooth for me really does work. With this engine and the hydraulic clutch, I can't use a 1452, 1453 because it's too close to that slave cylinder, so I'm kind of nervous about that, so I keep the stock gearing and just go up a tooth on the rear. A couple things that stand out to you, Dave, that you like about the engine versus your bike. Your bike has a Krapovich muffler.
Yep.
I rode your bike today. It's smooth character like this, but I still feel like this is broader than yours.
Yeah, that, and also it's more responsive than my bike as far as getting on the gas out of the corner. I noticed that right off the bat. And the main thing I noticed was just less engine braking.
Yeah.
That's a big one, because these Hondas don't like engine braking going in a corner, where mine still has a little bit of it. This one, it's there, but not as much as my bike has, so it really helps out the chassis.
Some guys like engine braking. For me, I like a little bit because I'm a front-end steering rider, but I don't like a lot of it when I'm in second gear coming off throttle. Then you get a lot of pitching, right, and upsets the chassis. As Dave says, I didn't really notice it until he said something to kind of spark something and remembered it, is when I'm rolling out of the corner and you have a short straightaways and I have to stay in second gear, the chassis is a lot friendlier because there is less pitching. I am in map 1 most of the time. I've tried map 3. There is more engine braking in map 3. Map 2 for me is too mellow.
Yep.
So I don't, did you try all the maps?
I did try all the maps, and they're really good because you can tell the difference in each map. But I run standard on my bike. I tried them on this bike, and the same thing. The 3 is just a little too much. More engine braking, just a little too much to handle. Where standard is perfect. Sweet spot on this thing is perfect. I'd go up one on the tooth in the back too, like I did with mine.
Are you stock gearing on your bike?
I went up one tooth on the back.
Okay. So overall feeling for me on the WE is just, it's a lot friendlier of a Honda than the standard R. And I think a lot has to do with just how the engine makes its power. I did a lot of modified Honda project bikes with Racer X before, and when I smooth out the power, it really calms down the chassis. The 250 and the 450 share the same frame, and the 250 to me is not as rigid as the 450, and that is simply just because of power and torque feel. So this head and the Yoshimura system really does help this thing out a lot, and with the coatings in the fork, it helps that thing move a little bit more. There's less stiction, so I do like that. A couple things I don't like. It's not all peas and carrots for me. David, I don't know what you thought about, when I come out of a corner and I have to shift to third, it's tough to get it into third gear. I don't know if you noticed, but I really have to push up on my left foot, or I got to let off the throttle, and it's a little bit notchy of a feel.
Yeah, my bike's the same way, and I just thought maybe I raised my shifter up thinking I just had to get under the shifter more, but it's the same. It's kind of notchy, and I've missed a few shifts on my bike because of that reason. So I'm not sure if that's just the shift forks in there or whatever, but that's the problem.
Also, another thing that I like about this a little bit more than the R is it actually corners better for whatever reason. If it's the fork setting or the way the engine builds its power, I can actually lay this bike into the corner easier. It does feel heavy on straight line, if I can explain that. Like, so when I come into a corner, I can feel it has a lot of weight, but side-to-side movement is really light. So I like the way the front tire tracks on the WE more than the R, and of course I think it's engine and the fork setting. Do not like rental Kevlar grips. They feel fat to me.
Too much, yeah, too big.
Yeah.
I don't like them either.
The hydraulic clutch is somewhat to get used to if you're coming from a cable. It is a little bit of an on-off feel, but again, the action on the track, you'll never have to screw with your lever. It's always there. Something that if you're coming from a cable-mounted bike to a hydraulic system, you might want to get used to it and practice some starts before you go race it, because the actual action of the lever is a little bit different from a cable, so that's something you have to get used to. Overall though, I mean, it's a better Honda. I like having a bike that is planted feeling, and I will take a stability over cornering. This WE is a little bit more stable to me than the R for whatever reason. Engine, feel, front fork, but it's just a better balance.
So I raced the Vet National 2 years ago on my bike stock suspension, and I'm surprised that I was able to do as well as I did, because the front end was just, I was getting beat to death. I feel like I could race this bike, the Vet National, the way the track is, and it's very Vet National-esque, because it's pretty
choppy.
rough, choppy, and hard packed in sections. And this bike did really well. I felt comfortable. I wasn't getting beat to death. I mean, the suspension is hands down, it's night and day different than the 22 model for sure.
And David, you're a looks kind of guy.
Sure.
You like having good looks.
I do.
So you actually purchased one of these over an R because of how it looked.
That, but also I thought the updated suspension would be better. Bigger shock shaft, better suspension. Had come with the exhaust and supporting to the motor. And we did it up top end of my bike at 50 hours, and you could see where they polished. They touched up some stuff in the head. So I guess
when they did pull it apart, you could see.
You could see that there was some stuff that was touched up. Yes. Now this bike, I guess, is more polished and actually more done more. But I really like this bike a lot. It's definitely better than my 22 for sure.
Okay, so to wrap all this up here, it's $2,800 more than the standard R. you're getting a lot. Just like we did the Kawasaki SR, I feel like you're getting more than $2,800, the price difference. And granted, whatever that MSRP is at your local dealer, you know, when you look on Honda's website, it is just a little less than $3,000 more. A muffler system like this is $1,500. You're getting different wheels, you're getting a polished head, you know, just bits and pieces and graphics, a seat. So for me, that adds up. If you told me and you had each bike in front of my face, say, which one do I want? I don't care about looks. I'm still gonna go to this bike just because of how it works on the track. I've always said you East Coast guys don't really feel what I feel on this bike out here on the West Coast. We had conditions similar to you guys out here, and I can kind of understand more how much you like this bike in softer conditions because it's not as edgy, it turns really well, it's easier to manage the power.
Yep.
So you are very frugal man.
Yes.
$2,800.
Yeah.
You're in?
I am in. Yep.
Just because of the action of the fork and then the engine character.
Yeah, I think that's hands down one of the best things about this bike, especially the R. You got the suspension is not quite as good, so you get that rigidity back a little bit. And this bike, like I said, you could get it, ride it, and be fine. It's a fun bike to ride.
Plus, it's hard to beat the looks of a brand new Honda when you
just,
have it in the back of your truck, your lifted truck with your fireman hat in the back of the window.
Drive around town, look cool. I mean,
and you got your Honda wing hat.
Yep.
So, for me, one of the best looking factory editions out there. So, yeah, so we're gonna ride this hopefully more. If Ryan Dudek behind the camera gives this bike to us more, he probably won't, but I would like to ride it more. And we'll give you some more information. You can always hit me up, Kris at KeeferInkTesting.com. And always look, 12 issues, $30, Racer X. We do have a publication. Yes, there is still magazines out there. Yes, you can read. It's more than just the internet. So get a free, I think there's calendars, you can get underwear. We always have something free when you subscribe 12 issues. So don't forget about that. And we'll see you on the next go-around.